and welcome to Pandora FMS. In today's video, we will show you what the alert system is and how to create each element that makes up an alert. An alert is the response of Pandora FMS to the incorrect value or status of a module. This reaction is configurable and may consist of anything that can be triggered by an execution, either a system command or a custom script configuring the operating system or Pandora FMS server that processes the information runs. Alerts are made up of three elements: commands, actions, and templates. To start configuring your alert, start with its core, that is the response commands. To do this, go to the Alerts section and select Commands. These commands are what will be executed on your server when the alert has been assigned to fires. Within this section, we find the most common commands already configured, such as sending an email, generating an event, or writing on an alert blog. You may edit them by clicking directly on their name, copy them to make small changes, or delete them if you don't need them. Although some of them, such as the command to send an email or generate an event, cannot be modified or deleted. To create a new command, click Create, which will take you to the command configuration window. In this new window, several fields will appear to be filled in. Let's see the most important ones. The command field will execute the command you indicate on the server with the same privileges as the user that runs Pandora FMS server, which is root by default. But to make sure that this command will work, we recommend running first this command on the server to make sure it runs correctly. We're going to configure, for example, the restart of a Pandora FMS server service. The next important fields are the description and value fields. In the values field, you may configure a macro or several within the same field in order to create an element selector. A macro is a variable that Pandora FMS offers to be able to use the same command in different situations. For example, the field 1 macro refers to the text box that you have below, where we're going to configure the services that the command will execute. We'll leave you in the description more information with the different macros that you may find in Pandora FMS. As we have said, we're going to define several services of our server, such as the postfix and Docker service as options for the action that we're going to configure next. First, enter the name of the service, then add a comma as a separator, and finally an identifier name that will work as a label. And to add another service, separate them by semicolons, and repeat the same previous process. Once you're done, click Create. Now go to the Actions section. Actions are the components of the alerts that configure the command through the value fields that you defined previously. As in the Commands sections, you have some actions already configured, which you may modify, copy, or delete. To create a new action, just click Create. In this section, you have two columns. The first column corresponds to the action that will be executed when the condition is met, and the second corresponds to the action that will be executed when the condition that triggered the alert is no longer met. For example, when a module changes from critical to normal. Give it a name and choose the command that you just created, in addition to the execution threshold of the action, and, as we will see below, select the service that you want to execute together with the command using the drop-down menu. As always, click Create for the settings to be applied. Finally, configure a template for this action. Access the Templates section, which has the same operation as the two previous sections. Templates define the triggering conditions for the alert, that is, when to execute the action or actions you assign it. These templates are associated with the modules of our agents, in such a way that when the conditions established in your template are met, the actions that you define in there will be executed. This time, instead of creating a new template, make a copy of the critical condition template. Templates are divided into three configuration steps. In the first one, you may modify the name, description, and priority. For the second step, configure the conditions, where you may modify the days of the week in which the alert can be triggered, in addition to being able to select a list of special days for holidays and special working days, the time in which the alert can be executed. If you want it to be all day, leave the time threshold by default, which in this case is the time that must go by to restart the alert counter, which is complemented by the maximum number of alerts field. The minimum number of alerts field is the minimum number of times the situation defined in the template must take place for the alert to be triggered, while the maximum number of alerts field is the number of times that the alert can be triggered during the time threshold that you defined. For instance, if you type in 2 in the field minimum number of alerts and 10 in the field maximum number of alerts, your alert will fire when the condition is met 2 times, and it would fire the 3rd time that happens. That is, the POSFix module must report at least a critical state 3 times in the range of 1 day, and the alert can be triggered up to a maximum of 10 times in that same range of 1 day, as long as you do not configure the recovery alert, as we will see in the last configuration window of the template. Next, select the action that you created previously and the trigger condition, which, as we said before, for this example will be a critical condition. The reset counter for non-sustained alerts token requires the minimum number of alerts field to be higher than 0 to work. By enabling this token, you reset the alert counter when the indicated condition is not repeated consecutively. That is, if you assign a value of 2 to the minimum number of alerts field and you selected a critical condition, the module must report a critical condition 3 times in a row for the alert to be triggered. While if it reports 2 critical conditions and 1 warning, the counter will be reset and the alert will not be triggered. Finally, you have the option to disable the events generated by the alert with the Disable Event token. Once you have configured everything necessary, click Next. In this last step, you may configure the fields of your alert in case you have not filled them in the Actions section. You only have to take into account that the fields of the action override these fields in case there's something defined. In addition, you may configure the recovery of the alert that you previously commented on. If you activate this option, the alert counter that you defined in the previous step will return to 0 in case your alert recovers. That is, when it returns to its normal state. Once you configure these 3 elements, you may now create and assign your new alert to a module. Now just go to Alerts, Alert List. Click Create. In this new window, type in the name of the agent. The module the alert is going to be assigned to. The action in this case would serve to add an additional action since you have one configured in your template. So leave it in Action by default, and the template that you just created. And additionally, you may configure a firing interval for that alert, so that it only fires once in that period of time. Once you add the alert, that's it. Now let's simulate a POSFix service crash. The alert will be triggered and a warning will appear in Pandora FMS welcome screen. Click on the number of triggered alerts, which will take you to the window where you may manage the triggered alerts. You will be able to see some details of the alert, such as whether it belongs to a policy, if it is on a standby, and force the alert to be triggered. You may also see the module the alert has been assigned to, the template that you used, and the action the alert performs, in addition to being able to see how long ago it was fired for the last time and the status, whether it was validated or not yet, which you may see using the selection of filters that you have above. Finally, to validate an alert that you already checked, click on the box on the left and then on Validate. Although if you do not do so, Pandora FMS detects whether the service is active again, in which case it would perform the validation automatically. And that was it for today's video. Don't forget it, if you like the video, smile, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Any suggestions, questions or ideas, please leave them in the comments below. Remember that if you're interested in trying Pandora FMS Enterprise, you may contact us to get a free 30-day trial. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to see you in social media and in future learning videos.